All right, all right, all right. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Amuna. Let me go ahead and play my intro. Like, subscribe, and share. I'm gonna try to switch it up a little bit, you guys. Switch it up a little bit. So today's story is wow, it's crazy. When I saw it, I said, you know what, it reminds me of the Lev Project. So we're gonna get into it real quick. But before we do, we have a goal for the upcoming month. I'm even streaming from inside before I get outside in the breeze. Because I know the breeze be getting in the microphone. So I said I'm gonna stream early this morning. We're trying to get to 7,000. So if you're one of the 80% of people who are watching the videos but not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe for me, please. You don't know it already. We got goals. We got goals. We got goals. I've been playing around on YouTube for a minute, and we can't complain about the level of content creators out here on the tube if we're not willing to, show up. And I took a long reprieve from YouTube because it can be an overwhelming place, but I think I got my second win. So stay tuned for that. Anywho, without further ado, let's get into this story. So I'm gonna just give a little backstory on why this story is interesting. A few years ago, back in 2016, for a whole year, I read slave narratives. I read, things about slavery here in the West, and it was very interesting. And I invited the community, but for the most part, the community did not show up. And so stories like this is what leads me to believe that maybe I was a little bit ahead of my time, but we're rounding the bend. So this man here with the arrow, they live in Virginia, the whole family. They grew up there, and he moved to California. They have a very big family. And the family wanted to buy a place so that when they had family reunions, everybody could come together. This is a documentary that was on 60 Minutes. I'm not going to play the whole thing because you don't know it already. So, nonetheless, his younger sister was like, yo, I think I found a spot. It's for sale. It's 200 and something $1,000. Let's get it. And he was like, I'm just going to put in a bid. I'm not sure about this. But he said he was trying to sabotage the conversation. He didn't really want to get in on the house, that particular house. Now, the siblings said that they often passed the house, and it was called the Scary House. It was on a big piece of land. It was a little bit far from the road. Nonetheless, they end up putting in the bid and get the house. When they get the house, some of the other cousins in the family started doing a little research. And when they did a little research, they found out that dun dun dun, this was a slave owner's house. This was a plantation. They was like, plantation? Say what? Right? So they start doing more research and more research and more research. So one of the cousins, the one here in the black cardigan, he worked some 30 years ago. I'm giving you the long and short of it. And then I'm going to give this solonomist perspective. Some 30 years ago, he worked with a European man, one who used to own the house. His family owned the house. And the European man said in passing, I think this house, this land in your family is connected. But the guy said he never thought much of it, and he said he never thought much of it, and he didn't look into it. Anyway, 30 years later, comes to find out, not only is this place a plantation, there's a possibility that it's a plantation. I forgot my background music. I'm gonna get the hang of this again. There's a possibility that it's a plantation that their family was enslaved on. So they begin to do some digging and digging and digging. So I'm gonna play a little bit about why it's important to know your family history. People make fun of it. One of the things that they said when the interviewer was asking was that their family didn't talk about slavery, just like we don't talk about Bruno. They didn't talk about slavery because it was a topic that, it was a hurtful topic. And so in doing so, there was a lot of information that was kind of lost along the way. So let me go ahead and play a little bit of this here.
Did you know her? Yes, I did. Well, tell us about her. She would always be out there with a broom in her hand, and she would be waiting for us.
Marion Keyes remembers her great-grandmother Sarah as a force to be reckoned with.
Wait, pause. I didn't share my audio. 1 second. Let me share my audio. So basically, the oldest matriarch in the family now is about 90. And she remembers her great-grandma Sarah, but she didn't know much about her outside of that. So now they're interviewing her, the matriarch of the family now, but she still doesn't have enough information to go on.
He wanted you to know. He would want to know it.
Was she persnickety, as they
Yes,
say?
yes, yes.
Difficult? Stern?
Very, very. She didn't play. She didn't play, but we loved her.
But that's where Miss Key's knowledge of Miller family history ended. She didn't know anything about the generations before emancipation. When you were growing up, what did you learn or hear from your parents about slavery?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing. I wonder, why are you reading this? What does this have to do with anything? We should move forward. Let's get reparations. I mean, this story was very touching to me because of the way everything came full circle, the way they unknowingly went back and reclaimed and got their reparations, in the sense of being able to buy the house, that their ancestors were, the farm that their ancestors were enslaved on, but they didn't know. And not knowing is not half the battle. It's knowing is half the battle. Remember G.I. Joe? They did not know, right?
Nothing.
Nothing. They did not talk about it. I don't know whether they were afraid, whether it was too miserable or painful, or they wanted to forget it. I don't know, but they didn't.
All of the above, Granny. They did not know. It was too painful. It was miserable, and that's why. And I still maintain that it's very important to know our history. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes curiosity. It takes a willingness. But when you know, then you feel empowered, right, to overcome whatever, to realize that they may have gone through all of that, but it wasn't in vain, because look at us now. Now all of the families able to gather in the space that took so much from their family members.
Not talk to us about it at all. And we didn't ask them questions about it.
Why not?
We were afraid to.
We heard that again and again from members of the Miller family.
Slavery, what?
Afraid to mention, afraid to ask questions, afraid to know who you are, where you're coming from. This is part of the problem. This is when we look and see what is the root of a lot of the problems that the people are facing. It's lack of knowledge. For lack of knowledge, the people perish, right? That's a biblical script. For lack of knowledge, the people do what? Perish. Let me pause for a second. So how are the people perishing, right? Hold on. Tying it all together, my journey has shown me that this is a step-by-step process. And even if the majority of people are not with you, it's worth it. Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, right? Other translations say the people perish for the lack of knowledge. So not knowing, especially when it relates to where you're coming from, what you're about, where you need to be going, what was done already, what are the generational curses for your specific family, what are the things that you need to break and overcome, you need to know. And oftentimes people grew other generations up in the dark because they didn't know how to communicate their pain. So they translated it into ways that were maladaptive. They hid it, they overcompensated, they hushed people who, so it wasn't mentioned. Yes, people existed before slavery, but it was the last known major collective trauma that if we don't understand it, we can't get to the other side. Talking about single parenthood, broken families, all of that is symptomatic. All you're doing is grasping at straw. Those are the symptoms. If we don't get a holistic understanding of the underlying issues, health-wise, mental-wise, emotional-wise, spiritual-wise, we're just grasping at straws. Amuna is back, y'all. Amuna is back. I've been playing around. Not really. I had to take a minute because a lot of this stuff was very, very heavy. But I'm back because too many people are playing it. Like I say, you played in my face. Too many people out here playing. They have an agenda. They're out here, for YouTube clicks and views, misleading many people, sowing hate and discord amongst the people, not making bridges. They're going to make me have to come back, man.
Wasn't mentioned at all.
Was there almost a code? We don't talk about slavery, so nobody did.
It was something that every black person knew you didn't talk about. The parents would tell you not to discuss grown people business.
We don't talk about Bruno, grown people business. Code for I don't know how to effectively communicate my emotions and feelings. Therefore, I'm going to gaslight you and lead you to believe that your concerns are not relevant and therefore you must go sit your little child behind down. And I'm going to pass trauma on to you from generation to generation and then tell you to figure it out. You don't talk about grown folks' business. This is the error. This is the disconnect that has led to where people are in present day.
That's what they'll tell you.
The first time slavery was discussed was, I guess, in the 70s when Roots came. The movie Roots came about.
That's the first time when Roots was on television? Did you read about it?
Listen to this European woman who's part of, would be and oftentimes part of the issue and the problem. That's the first time? So y'all wasn't talking about, all of your pain and trauma without counseling? And no, lady, no. And yes, Roots was a pivotal moment at that time for many, many, many people. Okay. And so when I went back over Roots, Alvin Haley was plagiarizing and this and that and all of this other stuff. We missed the point. Maybe at this point, after the whole Black Lives Matter conversation, after the whole, all of this, maybe we're willing to talk now. I don't know. What was that? 2016? What? 6 years ago? Maybe we wasn't willing to talk then. Or maybe we're willing to talk now. Let me know if we're willing to talk now in the comment section below. Are we willing to talk? And both sides of the spectrum. Sometimes when we're talking, we say, the Europeans shouldn't talk. Yes, they should. Everybody should talk. All parties who were injured in this whole, if you're having a lawsuit, all parties who were injured, all parties who were participants, everybody should be able to speak their piece. There's some people who have not processed trauma and feel as though the other party should not speak. Everybody should speak because you need to get back down to the bottom of it.
About it in school?
Not much.
His family also remembers Roots as pivotal.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
That's
when we all felt like that.
That was an eye-opener.
But even after Roots, you didn't go and say, what about our family?
No,
Even
not
then,
at all.
what held you back?
I just didn't think they wanted to talk about it.
But didn't you want to?
Darkness, lady? People just saying, hey, just get your education. Don't look back. When you talk about all of what is plaguing many people in today's space and time, it's coming from somewhere. There's a root system that after it sprouts, you get into all of what's going on right now, all of the trees, all of the offshoots. You can't just stay at one spot and be like, yeah, this is it. I'm just going to drill down right here. Nah, it's not. It's treating the symptom. Let me continue.
No.
I would love to have known.
Fred's purchase of Sharswood was about to give him a crash course in his hometown's slavery roots.
So he was unaware that this house that they bought for family reunions and get-togethers was actually the house that his ancestors were enslaved in. What happens ultimately is they begin curious, they call in genealogists, they call in experts, and they're able to find out that through census records that the Millers, they were connected with the European side of the Millers, and that the Millers were their great ancestors were born on this Miller plantation right before emancipation. That's crazy. That's wild. That's deep. And one of the original structures of what became the slave quarters was actually standing. So go ahead and check out this documentary. I'm not going to make this one long. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like I said, I'm gonna have to come back, y'all. I'm gonna have to come back and share my piece. It's been a minute since I've been, dedicated to a certain degree to YouTube. So for the month of June, we're looking to get to 7K. I've been hovering around 4K for a minute because I go on and off of YouTube, because I like my sanity as well. I'm gonna run a commercial, see if you have anything to say before I go ahead and wrap up. Yeah, one more. This episode is sponsored by Yummy Curry Powder. Go on over to www.theyummycottage.com for your powder today. Hey, what's going on, Judah? No worries, no worries. I'm gonna have to switch things up a little bit because sometimes I listen back. I hear some wind in the thing, so sometimes I'm gonna have to come a little earlier before I hit the road. And definitely, Judah said, "Why you come on so early?" I already know a lot of people gonna catch it on the replay, but now I said, I'm feeling like the tug. Like I gotta come back a little bit more frequent to YouTube and put some things on record because a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing floating around is wild. It's crazy. And it's not leading us to where we need to be because a lot of the people who are speaking have an agenda, right? And so, I've been sitting on the sidelines long enough, I think. So with that said, definitely I'm going to drop the link in the box. You can watch the whole 60-minute episode. It is, for me, it felt like full circle. Let me see if I jump down. Let me see if I jump down all the way. Jump down all the way in this thing here. At the end, they found out that this is where their ancestors were enslaved. So hold on, let me see something.
One simple but brilliant trick to cool your home and
own that plantation property.
You've never heard anything like this.
No.
Yeah. So a number of plantation properties like Mount Vernon and Monticello have established relations with descendants of the enslaved there. But to actually see those descendants come to own that plantation property, wow.
This is God.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we're supposed to be. It's like a full circle, like it was meant to happen. To me, it was like it was meant to happen.
The Millers also see the hand of their ancestors in all of this.
I think there had to be because I did everything in my power to make this fail.
Did not make it happen. Yeah.
I tried to mess it up at every angle.
But those ancestors had one more surprise in store.
So this is full circle. That's what I said. And that's why I put this picture where you see, they say they wish they were in the room. They are in the room. They are in the room because they're in you. Their DNA is what makes, they're part of their story. That's why I talk about a book. It doesn't start with you or it didn't start with you. Parts of their story are within your DNA. This is what we don't understand. So when we're repeating the good and the bad, they're guiding you not from some hooky, spooky, in the sky type vibration. Their energetic blueprint courses through your veins. So they were led to, this space to complete whatever, to close a chapter, to bring full circle, whatever needed to bring full circle. And a lot of us are running around chasing our tails because we're disconnected from understanding what a lot of this stuff is really about. So they're like, they wish they're in the room. They are in the room, not
With
not
all
in a
the
hokey, spooky
revelations,
kind of way.
there was one question that continued to gnaw at Dexter.
So with that said, I dropped the link in the box. This is a wild story right here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you see me going live at some weird times, it's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna get my bearings. But if I see a story, what happens too, I see so many stories that I want to cover, and I'm a more deep dive type of person, but I don't have the deep dive type of time. That's why you see me double back yesterday with the Bilal story, because I don't like to put out misinformation, right? And so some of the places YouTube forces, they don't force you, but the YouTube appetite, the social media appetite kind of pushes people, content creators, to just be on it, just to talk, I don't like that because you can put out misinformation just trying to be the first to. So this is why I always struggled with YouTube, because I take my time to kind of comb through things, right? So I see so many stories that I want to talk on, but the time doesn't always allow. And if I have to double back, I am, just so that I could clear things up on the record. That's just how I get down. So with that said, like I said, we got to go to make it worth it, because like I said, it takes a lot of time from other spaces. Our first goal is 7,000. I've been hovering around 4,000 for a minute. I'll disappear for 9 months and then come back. But for those who've been here, y'all already know it's still love for the YouTube family. It's still love for the YouTube family. So with that said, thank everybody for tuning in. If you missed it, just go ahead and rewind, come back from the top, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How far have you gone into your family history? Have you found out anything interesting? You know, for me, myself personally, I've been doing this thing for the last 20 something years, asking questions to people who are alive. Let me say, to people who are alive. I've shared that here before. I've found some amazing things, and it feels like now I could rest a little bit. I found out some awesome information, some of which I've shared here. Found my great grandfather's draft papers from the Caribbean. You know, found all kind of stuff. People who died, birth certificates, marriage certificates, information from Jamaica. Even found Congregation of Israel papers from my mother's ancestors, my mother's mother's father. I found their name on rosters and registers in Jamaica, in Israelite congregation. That's wild. You know what I mean? Like intrinsically, maybe I'll come back and talk about my story at another time. But all along the way, internally, I've known that there was more and that I needed to know more. That was my curiosity. But my general curiosity led me to give voice to a lot of people's stories that have been buried for hundreds of years. Right. And I was pushed, I was compelled, I felt drawn to do the Lev Project, which I did many years ago. And so when it came time to learn my own history, like I was just flowing. I would look at hundreds of names, and my mother's like, how do you do that? I don't know. Inside of me, I just know, no, that's not the person. That's not the person. That's not the person. Just sifting through hundreds of names and be like, that's the person. And she's like, how are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I'm doing it. And then the puzzle starts to come together. And it's a very arduous process, especially if a lot of the elders have died, you know, but it's a laborious process, but it's also a process of love, right? To connect the stories, to give voice, to say their names. Like they say their names, to say the names of those who came before you and who may not have reached to where you are, and to know that you stand on their shoulders. I think that's something that's missing in a lot of these conversations. You want reparations for their pain. You want monetary gain for what they've been through, but you don't want to give voice to their story. And I think their story is worth more than that monetary gain that you're going to have. If you put these two together, the story and where you're trying to get further, you have something to give the next generation. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I know I have to do the Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye part 2. So stay tuned for that. Everybody have a blessed day.